In the heart of a dusty Wild West town, Sheriff Tom Hargrove stood tall and proud, with his wide-brimmed hat casting a shadow over his rugged face. He was known for his strong will and unwavering confidence. He had served as sheriff for many years, earning the respect of the townspeople through his swift justice and protective nature. The townsfolk often turned to him for guidance, believing he could handle any trouble that came their way. Sheriff Hargrove was a man of few words but deep convictions. He loved this town, from its sun-soaked streets to the bustling saloon at its center. People admired him not only for his bravery but also for his fair treatment of everyone, whether they were farmers, shopkeepers, or drifters passing through. Children looked up to him as a hero, while adults felt secure knowing he was on watch. Yet, beneath this tough exterior lay a stubbornness that sometimes clouded his judgment. He believed in putting faith in his own abilities rather than listening to warnings from outsiders. Little did he know that this very trait would soon lead him down a path filled with unexpected danger and smoke rising ominously over his beloved ranch. One sunny afternoon, as Sheriff Hargrove was tending to his duties, a group of Apache riders approached the town. Their presence was striking, with dark horses and colorful blankets that flowed in the wind. The townspeople whispered among themselves, unsure of what to think, but the sheriff remained calm, thinking they had come for trade or news. However, the Apache leader, a wise and weathered man named Taza, had a serious message. He dismounted and strode confidently to the sheriff's office, his expression grave. With respectful yet firm words, Taza explained that there had been disturbances in the Apache territory, strange settlers cutting wood and hunting without permission. He warned Sheriff Hargrove that these actions could lead to conflict if not addressed. "The land speaks to us," Taza said, pointing towards the hills that framed their homes. "The smoke from your ranch may soon rise if you do not heed our warning." The sheriff listened but felt a flicker of doubt. He thought he could manage any trouble on his own. Taza's warning hung in the air like a storm cloud, but Hargrove's stubbornness kept him from fully grasping the potential danger ahead. After Taza delivered his warning, Sheriff Hargrove nodded politely but felt a wave of skepticism wash over him. He appreciated the Apache leader's concern but couldn't shake the feeling that he knew his town better than anyone else. "These are just rumors," he thought, dismissing the idea that settlers could cause real trouble. As he returned to his office, he chuckled quietly to himself about the warning of smoke rising over his ranch. "We've faced worse than a few whispers about settlers," he reassured himself, leaning back in his chair with a sense of pride. The ranch had been prosperous for years, and he believed his strong leadership would keep it safe. Throughout the following days, he carried on with his duties, confident that his presence alone was enough to deter any trouble. The townsfolk chatted about the Apache riders and their concerns, but Hargrove brushed off their worries. He often reminded them that they had nothing to fear under his watch. Yet, deep down, a small voice nudged him to pay attention, one he chose to ignore as he focused instead on maintaining the peace in his town. Little did he know how quickly things could change. As days passed, the tension in the town grew palpable. Townspeople gathered in small groups, voices hushed as they discussed the Apache warning and the sheriff's dismissive attitude. In the dusty saloon, a group of farmers leaned against the bar, their brows furrowed with worry. "I don't like this at all," whispered Martha, a local shopkeeper. "If the Apache are concerned, maybe we should be too. They know their land better than we do." "Exactly," replied Jim, a rancher. "Ignoring their warning could lead to trouble. What if they decide to take matters into their own hands?" Across the street, children played while adults exchanged glances filled with uncertainty. The sheriff's confidence seemed to wane as whispers of unrest spread like wildfire. Some began to question whether he was truly protecting them or merely ignoring danger out of pride. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, a group of townsfolk approached Sheriff Hargrove to voice their fears. "Sheriff," said one man hesitantly, "we feel uneasy about what might happen if we don't listen to the Apache." The sheriff's dismissal echoed in their minds, but now they wondered if his strong leadership was enough to keep them safe from an unseen threat. As days turned into weeks, subtle signs began to emerge that something was indeed amiss. It started with strange noises at night, low whispers carried by the wind and rustling sounds coming from the nearby woods. Ranchers reported restless livestock, animals stamping their hooves in agitation, as if sensing an unseen threat lurking in the shadows. One morning, Martha, the shopkeeper, arrived at the market to find her prized chickens missing. "They were here just last night," she exclaimed, panic rising in her voice. The loss stirred murmurs among the townsfolk, fueling fears that the Apache warning might be more than just a tale. Later that week, Jim discovered fresh tracks leading away from his pasture, where 3 cattle had disappeared overnight. The tracks were unfamiliar and unsettling, deepening the community's anxiety. As more ranchers reported missing livestock, the atmosphere in town grew heavy with dread. Even children playing outside noted the changes. They whispered about ghostly figures seen at dusk and shadows darting between trees. The sheriff brushed off these concerns with a wave of his hand, but each new sign added weight to the feeling that danger was closer than he believed. The town was on edge, and suspense hung thick in the air, unrelenting and ominous. One fateful afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, Sheriff Hargrove decided to take a ride out to his ranch. He felt the familiar sense of pride swell in his chest, believing he could manage whatever came his way. But as he approached the familiar homestead, something caught his eye, a thin plume of smoke curling into the azure sky. His heart raced, and confusion washed over him. "What could that be?" he muttered, squinting against the sun's glare. As he drew closer, the smoke thickened, darkening the once peaceful horizon. Instinctively, he urged his horse into a gallop, dread creeping into his heart with every stride. When he arrived at the ranch, panic gripped him. Flames licked at a corner of the barn, crackling fiercely as they devoured everything in their path. The realization hit him like a thunderclap. He had ignored Taz's warning and now faced the consequences of his stubbornness. The fear he'd brushed aside transformed into urgency as he shouted for help. The smoke spiraled higher, and for the first time, Sheriff Hargrove understood that danger was real and much closer than he had ever imagined. With a surge of adrenaline pumping through him, Sheriff Hargrove wasted no time. He quickly jumped off his horse and scanned the scene, noting the flames licking at the barn and the thick smoke billowing into the sky. He could not afford to let this fire spread and endanger the town. The Apache warning echoed in his mind, and he realized what he must do. Rushing down to the nearest group of townspeople, he called out with urgency. "We need to gather everyone. There's a fire at my ranch, and it could threaten our homes. We must act quickly." The shock on their faces soon turned to determination as they rallied to his side. Within moments, men and women grabbed buckets, ropes, and anything they could find to combat the growing flames. "Let's form a line," shouted Jim, a rancher who had been worried about the fire for weeks. The sheriff nodded, grateful for the support of the community that had once questioned his leadership. As they moved together toward the ranch, Hargrove felt a sense of unity among them. This time, he knew he wasn't alone, and perhaps together, they could protect their homes from harm. With every step, he resolved to listen more closely in the future, for danger was real and only teamwork could keep it at bay. With buckets in hand, the townspeople surged forward, their hearts pounding with a mix of fear and determination. Sheriff Hargrove led the way, his adrenaline fueling his every step. As they raced toward the ranch, anxiety hung in the air, thick and heavy. The sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch ominously across the ground. The crackling of flames echoed in the distance, reminding them of the urgency that propelled their hurried march. Faces were set with grim resolve. Some whispered prayers for safety, while others exchanged worried looks that spoke volumes about their unspoken fears. "Stay close," shouted Hargrove, glancing back at the group. The fear in their eyes mirrored the knot tightening in his own stomach. Each step felt like a countdown to an inevitable confrontation, either with nature's fury or potentially with those who might have caused it. As they neared the ranch, the heat from the fire became more intense, and a wave of smoke stung their eyes. The sheriff's mind raced. What if this was just the beginning? With each hurried stride, They prepared themselves not just to fight flames, but also for whatever conflict might lie ahead, united in their urgent mission to protect their homes and each other. As the townspeople battled the flames, Sheriff Hargrove spotted a group of Apache riders approaching from the edge of the forest. Taza, the wise leader, rode at the forefront, his expression grave. Hargrove felt a mix of anxiety and apprehension. He knew this meeting could be critical. The sheriff motioned for the townsfolk to pause as Taza dismounted, his posture confident yet cautious. "Sheriff Hargrove," Taza began, his voice steady but low. "The fire is not just a natural disaster. It was set to draw attention away from our territory." Hargrove furrowed his brow, confusion creeping in. "You think this was an attack?" he asked, trying to grasp the weight of Taza's words. "Yes," Taza replied firmly. "Your ranch is not safe. Our people warned you." Misunderstandings began to arise as the sheriff struggled to convey his intentions. "I thought we could handle this ourselves," he said defensively. But Taza looked him in the eye, shaking his head slowly. "Unity is strength. Alone, you are vulnerable." Frustration bubbled within Hargrove as he processed Taza's words. A bridge needed to be built between their worlds, but tensions ran high amidst the chaos of fire and fear. It was clear that cooperation might be their only hope for survival against a common enemy lurking in the shadows. As the fire crackled behind them, Sheriff Hargrove took a deep breath and looked into Taza's eyes, feeling the weight of the moment. Here stood a leader, a protector of his people, just as Hargrove saw himself for the town. "I see now," he began, his voice steady but sincere. "You were warning me not just about the settlers' actions, but about protecting your home as well." Taza nodded, his expression softening. "Our land is all we have, Sheriff. We were here long before others arrived, and we wish to protect it from chaos. When you ignore our concerns, it puts us all at risk." The sheriff felt a wave of shame wash over him. He had seen the Apache as rivals rather than partners in safeguarding their territory. "I did not understand before," he admitted. "We can't face danger alone." As they stood together amidst the rising smoke, Hargrove realized that respect and cooperation were essential for their survival. Both communities needed to work together to confront threats with understanding rather than suspicion. The bond forming between them was crucial. Only united could they hope to overcome the challenges that lay ahead. In that moment, a new respect blossomed between the sheriff and the Apache leader, one built on shared goals and mutual protection. With the fire contained and the immediate danger past, Sheriff Hargrove convened a meeting in the town square. The Apache riders, led by Taza, joined him as he addressed the worried townsfolk. "Today, we faced a common threat," he began, looking around at the faces filled with relief and uncertainty. "We work together to protect our homes, but we must also unite to safeguard our future." Taza stepped forward, his voice calm yet powerful. "We are not enemies but neighbors. Together, we can create a safer place for all our people." The crowd murmured in agreement as they began to understand the importance of collaboration. As they discussed ways to communicate better and share resources in case of future threats, Hargrove felt the weight of his earlier decisions lift. He realized that listening to warnings was essential, not just for his safety but for everyone's well-being. After the meeting, Hargrove reflected on his stubbornness and how it nearly cost them dearly. He approached Taza, expressing gratitude for their partnership. "I've learned that respect and understanding are vital," he said earnestly. With newfound respect between their communities solidified, Sheriff Hargrove knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead together, stronger as allies than divided by fear. In the aftermath of the fire and the newfound collaboration between the sheriff and the Apache, valuable lessons emerged for both communities. Sheriff Hargrove learned that listening to warnings, especially from those with different perspectives, was crucial for ensuring everyone's safety. His initial dismissal of Taza's concerns highlighted how misunderstandings can lead to unnecessary danger and conflict. The unity displayed during the crisis demonstrated that when people work together, they can overcome even the most formidable challenges. This partnership not only helped protect their homes, but also fostered a deeper respect between cultures that had previously viewed each other with suspicion. As Hargrove reflected on these events, he understood that peace and safety could only be achieved through understanding and cooperation. The sheriff committed to keeping lines of communication open, knowing that the strength of their communities lay in their ability to unite against common threats. Looking toward the future, both the townspeople and the Apache riders embraced a new path, one where empathy and collaboration would guide their actions. With mutual respect established, they could now face whatever challenges awaited them, stronger together than apart. Peace was not just a dream. It was now a shared reality they would strive to uphold.